Alcohol stole my life for the best part of 30 years or more, to be fair. If you're a heavy drinker or you're alcohol dependent, then you probably feel pretty much the same, I imagine, because alcohol just controls you, doesn't it? Basically, I started to drink when I was about 15, and I had a high tolerance to it for some reason. And then I became a regular drinker when I was about 17, 18, like a lot of my friends did. From then on, I was an engineer for a while. I hated that job. And then I joined the police service. I ended up in London eventually. And the centre of London was a playground for me, really. But I had huge ambitions in life. I wanted to be a musician, but I couldn't go overseas because my father wouldn't allow me when I was 16, fair enough. He said everyone would turn into a drug addict. I would turn into a drug addict if I went into the music industry. However, I turned into a drink addict, didn't I? It was the same, really, for different reasons. So what I mean is stole my life. I could function for a while as a heavy drinker, but every time I used to get into a social event, I would always be the last man standing. I would want to, have the most to drink. I don't know why. It wasn't a competition. I just think, well, I'm having a really good time, and I want to keep having a good time. I had a bit of this fear of missing out, I think, was one of the main things. And I didn't want to miss out on life. I was so excited about my life in my 20s, doing really well. I was married, but didn't have children at the time, so double income, no kids, a little bit of cash. And I saw alcohol as a way of getting on in life, in a way. And that was one of my big problems, I think, because the culture that I was in was drinking. It still is today. A lot of people drink, don't they? Most people drink. There's quite a lot of heavy drinkers. In fact, alcohol is killing more people than ever in the UK. Alcohol and things associated with illnesses and accidents, suicides, all this sort of thing around alcohol. It's the highest ever level of deaths, unfortunately. But how it stole my life was that the alcohol became more important than my ambition. And you start to fade off a little bit. What I mean by that is if you start getting hooked on alcohol, then your inhibition's lower, so you drink more and more. And instead of having a few pints in the early night, which I did regularly, that became less and less, and I had a bit more to drink. And I found every day as I got older very difficult. And when I retired from the police, and I did a couple of other little jobs in property and such like, I could hardly function, to be honest with you, because when I was, late 40s and stuff, and I came up the northeast, I was drinking every day. Now that's when the damage hits, and I only drank lager, but I was told by someone in the hospital here about 5 years ago when I was really ill, that the damage is done when you're young. It's repeated usage of alcohol is the main thing. I wasn't a binge drinker, it was just regular drinking, and never having a break. And that's what you've got to do. If you drink too much, you've got to have a bit of a break. But it takes away your freedom, and you become trapped. And you lose this ability to function like a normal human being. Now, I'm functioning like a normal human now, which is great. I can get up, have a breakfast, go out. I've just been for a little procedure actually at the hospital here. Just take a little thing off, like a skin thing. I would have just ignored that years ago. I would have ignored the doctors and just sat and drank, self-medicated, that sort of thing. So when I became really ill, and I started to have hair of the dog, drink in the morning, and become, my whole life was associated with alcohol. I became a bit of not a hermit, but became very insular. Very private person. I'm not a private person by nature, but I started to hide away a little bit. The only time I ever went out was when I used to go to the pub or try and get more supplies of alcohol. And I lived in a flat where nothing got repaired. I didn't want to let anybody in the flat. And I ended up living in a squalor, really. The bathroom floor collapsed, I had no heating. I had no hot water, obviously. Didn't want to get that fixed. I had a few financial issues. Partly because I was spending so much on alcohol and taxis and getting drink delivered and deliveries of food, which I hardly ever ate. My whole life became a complete chaotic, torturous way of life, or existence at best, So it did steal my future at the time. I've got a future back. And I've said before, you can't turn the clock back, but you wind up again. If you want to stop, you're going to have to stop. You can't rely on anybody else to help you to stop, because it's got to come from within. I'm dealing with quite a few people now. I speak to them who say my partner, husband, wife, sister, whatever, relation, friend has got alcohol problems. And I've told them to stop. The doctor's told them to stop. They won't stop. They can't stop. Unless you have a real incentive yourself, you're not going to be able to stop. So that's where it comes within here. You've got to really think about it and think, well, I want my life back. I've had enough time stolen by the alcohol. I want to get back on track. No matter what age you are, every day sober is fantastic compared to what you went through. I wouldn't swap my life now for what I used to have, for all the tea in China, as I say, because I couldn't even imagine going back for 1 hour of what I used to be like when I was living in the flat with no water, no heating, no food, desperation, isolation, depression, rats running around the flat, incredibly bad situation, worse than living on the streets in some ways, because at least I get some help and a cup of soup. I had nothing. Live in isolation, forcing myself sometimes to go out, too weak to walk sometimes. Taxi drivers used to help me in and out of the cab. A couple of mates of mine used to help me in and out of the pub. I mean, I was like a disabled person at the time. And the only reason I was disabled was because I drank too much. And I was in this vicious cycle of drink to self-medicate, drink to try and get sleep, drink to try and function, just get out of bed. It used to me often to get out of bed. I didn't have any life at all. And that's how it steals your life. And it creeps up very quickly. I did a video yesterday about hair of the dog. When you start to reach for a drink, first thing when you wake up, then it's a massive red flag. It's the biggest red flag. It's when you're slipping off the edge of the cliff. You've passed stage 1 of social drinking, stage 2 of moderate drinking, stage 3 is heavy drinking. I would say stage 3.5 is when you're drinking, you know there's problems happening around you. And when you get to stage 4, then you're drinking in the morning, then you're falling off the cliff, and it's very hard to get back on unless you're really, really focused. And you've got to have that reason. And it doesn't matter how many times people say stop, you can't stop unless you want to. So you've got to seek some help. See the doctor, speak to people like myself, as the people on YouTube do some bit of research. But above all else, do it for yourself, because you can't look after anybody else unless you look after yourself. I found a lot of people that alcoholics have very similar personalities, very caring people in general, and they're overthinkers and worriers. And I think that has a massive impact on people. People who just plough through life don't seem to have as many issues. I don't know why that is. Because maybe we worry too much, maybe we drink to calm our anxieties, but that's the wrong thing to do, because alcohol causes more anxiety in the long run, causes more issues, more problems, you know. So think about that. Think how much of your life already gone and been stolen by alcohol, and how much you can get back. Because 1 day sober is worth 100 years drinking. Trust me. No life as a drunk. I'm not a drunk. My dad used to call me a drunk. I wasn't drunk. I was just physically dependent, chemically dependent on it. And I didn't want to drink. In some cases, I really wanted to stop. Because I had previous seizures, I didn't want to stop. I was frightened in case something happened to me medically, whether I'd have a heart attack, have another seizure. I had a couple of courses to diazepam, was refused any further, couldn't get into rehab, couldn't afford private rehab, and I became desperate, a desperate, lonely individual. I don't want that to happen to you. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So it's not a very nice illness, it's horrendous. It's the biggest battle of my life to get sober, but the rewards are worth it if you can do it. And I'm here to help you do it. If you want my help, drop me a line. If you benefit from the channel, then please subscribe and share it, because there are many, many people who are suffering from alcohol issues, and there always will be, in my view, until there's some sort of curb at government level or some legislation comes in, because it's a poison. It's killing too many people, not just in the UK, but all over the world. And I shall speak to you soon. Leave me a comment if you've got anything to say, or you want me to cover any particular topics. All the best.